you everyone for sticking around. My name is Vicki Gambale, and I'm the Clean Vessel Act Education Coordinator for the state of Florida. There we go. I'm not going to read this slide, but it's just an overview of what I'll be talking about today. So I'll jump right in with some background about the Clean Vessel Act. It was signed into law in 1992. It's overseen by U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services, and it provides funds to all states, the District of Columbia, and U.S. insular areas. The grant funding will pay for 75% of the costs, all eligible costs, for the construction, renovation, operation, and maintenance of sewage waste reception facilities. So what does that mean? That's all sewage pump outs, porta potty dump stations, mobile pump out vessels, things like that. It will pay for 75% of those costs. And it's not just the equipment and the installation. It can also cover things like connection to the sewage lateral lines, applicable permits, those other items as well. It just has to be open to the public and for recreational boaters. CVA also pays for education programs. And in Florida, it is housed in the Department of Environmental Protection, DEP. If anyone is very interested in the Clean Vessel Act, right now, U.S. Fish and Wildlife is undergoing a rule rewrite, which will be available for public comment in the Federal Register soon, probably before the end of the year. So just wanted to give you that little update. There are requirements, of course, for any facility that is Clean Vessel Act funded. It must be open to the public and listed on the Pump Out Nav mobile phone app, which I'm going to talk a lot about in just a few more slides. These facilities cannot charge more than $5 per pump out, although, of course, the state encourages that they are available for free. There are some signage requirements, including the International Pump Out logo, which is there, and an informational placard. Of course, you have to have all your right permits, and you have to submit reports to the state. You must have an operations and maintenance plan, allow for site visits from DEP or Florida Sea Grant, and comply with the Build America, Buy America Act. To get a grant, facility just has to complete an application packet and submit it to DEP. I'm not going to read this, but these are the things that go into an application packet. Any facility that wants to apply can do so. And if they have questions about any of these items or unsure of anything, Clean Boating Program at DEP is really wonderful. They will help you with these items. Just give them a call or shoot them an email, and they will walk you through the process. It's really important to all of us that this infrastructure is out there for boaters so that they could properly dispose of their waste. This is an overview of the steps in the grant process and the timeline. But basically, it takes anywhere from 5 to 10 weeks from the time a facility submits a complete application packet to DEP until they're able to actually begin work on that project. It's grant funded, so work cannot begin until a contract is fully executed and that facility receives word from DEP that they could begin work. So that usually takes about 5 to 10 weeks. At the end of the contract period, if that contract was for new equipment, there is a 5-year post-project reporting period. Don't get scared from that. I know it sounds like a lot because it's 5 years and that sounds like a long time, but it's just basically the gallons of sewage that facility has pumped out that needs to get submitted to DEP on a quarterly basis. So it's not hard. It's really just one or two numbers on a sheet that needs to get submitted to DEP quarterly. All right, so now that you know a brief overview of the Clean Vessel Act and the grant, I'm going to talk about the not so pretty topic of sewage. We all know it's bad for the environment. If it's in our waterways, it's bad for the ecosystems, and it could be bad for human health as there are lots of pathogens in waste that can make people sick. Boat sewage is no exception to that. In fact, boat sewage is considered high-strength wastewater with about 13 times the biological oxygen demand, 24 times the chemical oxygen demand, over 40 times the total nitrogen, and 20 times the total phosphorus. This makes sense if you think about it. Boats hold in tank. The black water, it just comes from the flush of the toilet, versus at home, our domestic sewage is everything that goes down the drain. So all of our sinks and dishwashers, showers, and more. Not all boat waste is completely untreated. If a boat has an installed toilet, it must have type 1, 2, or 3 US Coast Guard approved marine sanitation device. Now, type 3, that's just a holding tank, so that is untreated raw sewage. But type 1 and 2 do have treatment mechanisms in place to reduce the bacteria counts to the standards seen here. However, they don't have legal standards to reduce any other water quality pollutant like nutrients. So it's important for boaters to pump out that waste, send it to a treatment facility where it is treated to a higher standard. We want to make that easier for boaters by showing them where all public sewage pump outs are. So Florida has joined the Pump Out Nav mobile phone app. It's free for boaters and facilities to be listed on the app, and it's our way of encouraging them to properly dispose of their heads waste, which most boaters do already and want to continue to do. Any state that receives Clean Vessel Act funds can join the app. And then that state is responsible for making sure the information in the app is accurate. All right. Let's see, I have a little video screen recording of the app. So instead of just talking about it, I thought I'd show you. Let's see. Okay, there is no audio. So Pump Out Nav allows boaters to quickly and easily find the closest pump out in a map or list view. Each facility includes the cost of the pump out, the hours, the exact location in the marina, and a photo of the pump out. Boaters can report a problem directly through the app, log their pump outs, and star their favorite facilities for quick reference later. Additionally, every facility name is linked to their web page. And there's the phone number is listed in the app as well. In addition to pump out stations, the app also includes dump stations and mobile pump out vessels. We don't have floating restrooms in Florida. So that's why I didn't mention those. And it has all that same information for all of these mobile pump out vessels as well. The app uses this PIN color coding system so that boaters know the status of the unit before they arrive. CVA staff, myself and 2 of my colleagues, go and do site visits at these facilities once a year so we could update the status and make sure that the app has the most accurate information possible. As of now, we do this once a year, but we'll probably also do this after any storm event passes through an area as well, because of course, infrastructure damage occurs after storm events, and we want to make those updates to the app. It also shows no discharge zones, which are highlighted in an orange shading with more information about them. And this is all on the Find feature of the app. In addition to that, there's a Learn section with videos about how to pump out, the marine sanitation device system and the Y valve and how it works. There's even a video on marine compost and toilets. And there's a Harbor Master section for boat and facility managers with a video on how to properly maintain pump out and dump station equipment. And finally, for boaters, there is a Me or profile section of the app where they could put in a photo of their boat's name, select what region they're in, because this is a national app. So the region, it generally correlates with a specific state. They could put in their holding tank capacity. And here is where a list of all their favorited facilities will be. And history of their pump out log is in this Me section as well. So that's the app from the boater's perspective. As a CDA staff, I also have the ability to survey boat and facilities directly through the app. So when I go do a site visit and I survey a facility, I'm looking to see what type of signage they have present. If the pump motor has a weird sound to it that might indicate there's a problem, I'll note that. I look at the condition of commonly worn parts like the nozzle and ball valve to make sure that they're in the best shape possible and don't need to be changed. A lot of these facilities have an hour counter on them. This is actually a counter of how long that motor has been on, and it's kind of an indication of use. So if it has an hour counter, I will take a reading of what that says. And then I conduct 2 checks of the equipment. One is that I fill up a 5-gallon bucket with water and time how long it takes to empty that bucket. Depending on the facility, I will also add a dye tracer to that bucket of water. That will allow me to quickly and easily detect if there's a leak in the plumbing underneath the dock system. It's something we encourage all facilities to do anytime their docks sustain damage or a major storm has passed through their area. Sometimes there's damage underneath that you just can't see from above, and a dye tracer, even if there's no problem, it's a good practice to do. And if you know there's a problem, but you have a hard time identifying where it is because you just smell it and you can't pinpoint where, using a dye tracer is a great tool to help identify exactly where there might be a leak in the sewage lines. After that, I have a vacuum gauge and I take a reading at the end of the nozzle. These checks are not directly comparable with how quickly that pump out will empty sewage from a boat's holding tank. There's a lot of other factors at play, but they're used generally to determine the overall condition of the unit. So why survey pump outs? It's definitely not because I want to go out and handle this sewage equipment. No, we do it because, well, for one, we want to provide boaters with accurate pump out status through the Pump Out Nav app. We want to ensure this equipment is operational and repairs are made in a timely manner. Boaters, if they go to a pump out and it's broken once, in their mind, that facility is always broken. So we want to make sure that repairs are made timely, and the pump outs are not the #1 priority of marina managers or the #2 priority. Let's face it, they have a lot on their plate. So we go out and we want to act as a resource for these facilities so we could help them make sure this equipment is maintained well and functions properly. Because if it doesn't, it's not only a headache to the boater, it's a headache to the marina manager. So we're just another resource for them to turn to. Of course, providing technical assistance through these site visits is a major reason why we do them, to track the general condition of the units and to share resources. Boating facility managers are one of the first places a boater will go for information about all sorts of things. So we want to be able to share what we have so that when they get asked questions over and over again, they have something to give to the boater. As I mentioned, this is a national app. This map shows where all the pump outs are on the app right now, but it's continually evolving. There are many other states that are interested and currently working to join the app. And there's also other features that are currently being built so that the app could do even more. So it's always evolving geographically and in the features. I'm going to transition from the app to talk briefly about sewage discharge laws. I'm sure you're all very familiar with most of these, but I just wanted to touch on them. As we've already heard, state waters in Florida extend approximately 3 nautical miles on the East Coast and 9 nautical miles in the Gulf of Mexico. Within state waters, it is illegal for boaters to discharge untreated sewage. They can discharge their waste if it's been treated through a type 1 or type 2 marine sanitation device, with a few exceptions. Whether the waste is treated or not, it cannot be discharged into inland lakes, reservoirs, and impoundments, and smaller rivers that don't support interstate traffic. They also cannot discharge in any federally designated no discharge zone. We have 3 of them currently here in Florida. However, there is legislation that has passed that greatly expands the potential for all aquatic preserves to be listed as no discharge zones. And there's 42 aquatic preserves in the state. So they cover about 2.4 million acres. So that would be a lot more aquatic preserves, or excuse me, a lot more no discharge zones. And if that happens, of course, they will all be added to the Pump Out Nav app. As I briefly mentioned, the CVA program is housed in the Department of Environmental Protection here in Florida. They do an excellent job at distributing grant funds and getting this infrastructure installed. However, like every organization, they have a limited capacity and can only do so much. They have limited staff. So 2 years ago, they have started contracted out to Florida Sea Grant to do CVA education and outreach. And that's what I do. They've also transitioned their regional coordinator positions from DEP to Sea Grant as well. Currently, there are 2 of the 4 positions filled. The Northwest is vacant, but David Fuller has been filling in that area. And the Southwest region is also vacant right now, but we will hope we all are filling in that area. And we hope these other 2 positions will be filled sometime next year. So the next project we're working on right now is a needs assessment. Our needs assessment will have 2 main parts. One will focus on infrastructure. Are there enough sewage pump outs for the boating community? And if not, where in the state do we need more? So that's the first part. The second part will focus on education. And this is being done through a boater survey to determine the boating community's current knowledge, attitudes, and behaviors regarding sewage management. Shameless plug, in the back of the room, there are these posters that help promote the survey, as well as flyers about the Pump Out Nav app and other educational materials. Looking ahead, we will use the needs assessment so that we prioritize our education program to develop materials on the topics where they're most needed. We'll also use the needs assessment to determine where in the state we need to prioritize outreach about the CVA grant to get more pump outs and sewage waste infrastructure installed. And then, of course, as no discharge zones come online, new ones, we'll integrate that into our education campaign. And finally, the other thing we have coming up is Y-valve education. There, through site visits and talking to partners at FWC, the Y-valve is usually the most misunderstood part of the MSD system for a boater. And it's the most common MSD infraction that boaters get, is not securing that properly. So we'll develop education about that as well. So those are some things we have coming up, and thank you again for sticking around. And if there's time, I'll take any questions you have.
Any questions? I got one. How does it work if there's nowhere to, or no facility would take the pump out? If I guess.
What does a boater do then?
Right.
Yeah, they have to follow the law, right? So they can't discharge it overboard unless they're outside of state waters, unless it's treated. There are some other like private companies that have trucks that if you are at a dock and they have their land truck, they could pump you out from that. In the future, I will be adding those to the app, but the boaters really have to plan ahead if they expect to be in an area where there aren't as many pump outs like that Bend area or in the Everglades. They, you know, if it's your boat, it's your responsibility. But we definitely try to make sure that there are enough facilities available to them to properly dispose of their waste. Thank you.